Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting. I have a motion to convene in open. The clerk read the recommendation.
The recommendation is that council convenes in open session at 7 p.m.
Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Fanning, Councillor Gordick, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Unfortunately, tonight we have a rather long moment of reflection. Begin with this evening, the sad note. Just prior to tonight's council meeting, staff were advised of some terrible news out of the region of Peel and a line of duty death for a police officer. On behalf of council, staff, and Wilmot community, I want to extend our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and co-workers of those impacted by this incident. One of these losses forces us to recognize the personal sacrifices made by members of the law enforcement community, first responders, and their families. Our police service strengthens public safety and quality of life by working in partnership with the community. In moments like these, we can truly understand the risk these brave individuals are forced to endure on the job every day. Let us take a moment to reflect on the tragic loss that must be felt by so many this evening. Take a moment, please. Thank you. Let us take a moment to recognize the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Last week, Wilmot Township, alongside people across Canada and around the world, were saddened to learn of the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada. At 96 years old, our Queen had recently celebrated a Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years of service. Her Majesty was our longest reigning sovereign and devoted her life to service. On behalf of the council and citizens of the township, we offer our heartfelt condolences on the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. We extend our thoughts and prayers to the royal family during this difficult time. Our community mourns with you. In honor of Her Majesty, the township has lowered all flags to half-mast at township facilities during the official mourning period. In addition, this past Friday, staff prepared a book of condolences, which is available in the lobby of the administration complex. Staff, council, and residents are encouraged to take a moment to add your message or simply reflect of the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. The book is available until Sunday, September 18th. After which it will be sent on behalf of the township to Buckingham Palace. On a personal note, I was deeply moved by the passing of Her Majesty. Our nation and community will forever be thankful for her service and devotion. The Queen exemplified the leadership qualities of strength, wisdom, and grace. As the crown will now move to King Charles III, our hope is that he will continue to lead people as his mother did, with the same love, compassion, and respect. God save the King. Ask for a moment of reflection. Thank you. Prior to the passing of Her Majesty, flags were lowered to recognize the tragic events in James Smith Cree Nation, Saskatchewan. We extend our deepest condolences to those who are mourning loved ones, neighbors, and community leaders after a weekend of unspeakable violence on James Smith Cree Nation and the village of Weldon, Saskatchewan. We recognize that some in our very own community may have connections to these impacted by this event, while for others, these events may have triggered past traumas. These senseless acts of violence have no place in Wilmot or in our world. Our thoughts are with those struggling with this tragic event. Ask for a moment of reflection. Thank you. I would now ask Councillor Fisher to read the Territorial Acknowledgement, please.
We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land, where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thank you. There are no additions to the agenda. I'll have the clerk read the recommendation for the adoption of the agenda.
The recommendation is that the agenda as presented for Monday, September 12th, 2022 be adopted.
May I please have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Holman, second by Councillor Gerber. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. Minutes from the previous meetings. Would have the clerk read the recommendation, please?
I apologize. The recommendation is that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as presented. August 22nd, 2022, regular meeting of council, and August 22, 2022, closed meeting of council.
Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Gordick, Councillor Fisher, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have two items this evening for this evening's public meeting. We will hear all interested people who wish to speak on these matters. If the decision of council of the Township of Wilmot are appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the tribunal has the power to dismiss an appeal if you do not speak at the public meeting or make written submissions before the bylaw is passed. I now declare the public meeting open. Persons attending as delegations at this meeting for any of these items are required to leave their names and addresses, which will become part of the public record. And you are hereby advised that this information may be posted on the township's official website, along with your email address if provided. I would like to remind all delegations for this evening of some guidelines for participation. Applicants and agents for the applicants have 10 minutes to speak. All other delegations will be given 7 minutes to speak. We also ask that you leave the meeting once your issue has been addressed. You are then welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting being webcast live via YouTube. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate muting and removal from the meeting. interrupting counselors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about counselors, staff, or others, hate speech, or defamatory comments. First, this is a public meeting in respect of zone change application 8/22 for 2372 Snyder's Road. Mr. Miller, would you introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. I understand the applicant's consultants also prepared a presentation, so I'll leave my comments rather brief. But this application is proposing to reduce the minimum lot area and frontage requirements for a lot within Zone 1 agricultural. So the subject property again is Zone Z1 agricultural. It's currently developed with a single detached dwelling. The applicant is seeking to divide the property's frontage in half and sever a new lot, which would then be developed with a single detached dwelling. Zone 1 does set out that any new lot that's created must possess a minimum lot area of at least 40 hectares and a lot frontage of at least 230 meters. Notwithstanding that, the township and regional official plan policies do support the creation of one or more new rural residential lots for the purposes of infilling within an existing grouping of rural residential lots on lands that are designated as rural areas. So this lot was determined to be in conformity with these policies under the regional and township official plans. And so therefore this application would implement these policies in the official plan and would facilitate a future severance application to actually result in the creation of the lot. In circulating the application, staff did receive some concerns from an abutting landowner surrounding the impacts of the proposal on the resale value of their home, grading, their ability to house non-commercial livestock, and the potential impacts of a new well. While staff do recognize these concerns, they are of the opinion that the hydrogeological and environmental noise studies that were prepared to date in conjunction with the requirement of future lot grading and drainage plan will ensure that there will be no negative impacts on neighboring properties. And this property's ability to house livestock effectively would remain unchanged with this proposal. So should council approve this application, a future severance application again would be required to create the new lot. This is simply implementing policies in the official plan. Staff are ultimately recommending that this application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Do council have any questions of Mr. Miller, or would you prefer to wait till the applicant has made their presentation? Seeing none, okay, we will allow Ms. Van Oningen to, as the agent of the applicant, you have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, and thank you, staff, for your introduction to our project. My name is Nicolette Van Oyen. I'm with MHBC Planning, and I'm here this evening on behalf of our client, Mr. John Dundon. Thank you for starting the presentation. So next slide, please. In support of this application, we did prepare or have consulting engineers prepare a hydrogeological assessment and a stationary noise study at the request of the regional municipality of Waterloo. And in addition, a planning justification report was prepared by MHBC Planning. Next slide, please. The location of the property is just west of the City of Kitchener limits within the Township of Wilmot. It's approximately 130 meters from the boundary, located on Snyder's Road East, which is a regional road. So in close proximity to services provided within the City of Kitchener. Next slide, please. The lands are proposed to be severed to create an additional lot for a single detached dwelling unit. The lands are currently approximately 2.3 acres in size with 53 meters of frontage. So once they're severed, we've divided the lands pretty roughly half down the middle to create the additional lot. The existing garage that's behind the existing dwelling will be demolished in order to be able to create the new lot. Next slide, please. The proposed development represents a slight intensification of a currently underutilized parcel of land within the rural designation of the Township of Wilmot. It will contribute to the region's housing supply and complements existing surrounding land uses and is in character with the rural nature of that portion of Schneider's Road East. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to recognize a reduced lot width and lot area. Next slide, please. So the existing zone is Z1 and will remain Z1. However, a site-specific provision will be permitted to allow for the reduced lot width and lot area in order to create a lot for single detached dwelling purposes. Next slide, please. So the proposal is in accordance with provincial policy that encourages development in existing underutilized lands within an urban area and located along a regional arterial road. It is also in accordance with the growth plan, being located within the protected countryside and rural areas designation. It makes use of and supports existing planned transportation options and contributes to additional housing. Next slide, please. It is also in compliance with the Region of Waterloo official plan, being designated as protected countryside and rural area. The new lot can support a private well and septic service, which was supported by a geotechnical study approved by the Region of Waterloo. It represents appropriate land use within the Township of Wilmot that contributes to the region's growth goals. Next slide, please. Within the Township of Wilmot, the lands are designated protected countryside and rural areas, which permits creation of new lots for rural residential development. However, there's a policy that requires each new lot to be created that such that the lot separated from other newly created lots are no more than 100 meters on the same side of an open public road. This is demonstrated in the next slide, please. So you can see that the newly created lot is within 100 meters of 4 additional lots that have previously been created. Next slide, please. So in summary, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with provincial policy framework, regional and township official plans. The severance for 1 additional lot for single detached residential use is permitted by the official plan and the zoning bylaw. However, a special regulation is required to permit the reduced lot area and lot width. The proposed site-specific regulations are appropriate and will allow for development of an underutilized site within the township. The zoning bylaw amendment will result in the highest and best use of the land. I'd also like to address the comment raised by the neighboring property owner in terms of, as Cameron has already mentioned, in terms of grading and drainage, that will be required as we go, as we work further to get consent approval for the severance. That will be a condition of the severance. And then the other issue relating to noise and the animals are restricted through the zoning. So no issues were raised about noise through the noise study development, and any further requirements for geotech approval for the sewage and well have already been addressed. So any further requirements for that will be addressed through the creation of the severance by way of consent approval. I thank you and am available to answer any questions if required.
Questions or comments for, okay, Councillor Fanning?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Armstrong. Just a quick question for clarification. I saw on your slide that you'd said, the slide said contributes to a range and mix of housing options, but it doesn't sound, from what you were saying when you were speaking, you said that it's going to be exactly the same as the other houses in the area. So that's that bullet point was inaccurate on the slides. Just clarifying.
Okay, yes, it is. It is just a single detached dwelling that's being proposed.
Thank you. See no further questions. Have the clerk indicate if there are any other persons present who wish to address council on this matter?
There are no others.
No others. Thank you. And for the second and last time, indicate if anyone wishes to address. It's a negative look I got. Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to read the recommendation, please.
Recommendation is that council approve zone change application 08/22 by MHBC Planning to reduce the minimum lot area and frontage requirements for a lot within Zone 1 agricultural from 40 hectares and 230 meters to 0.26 hectares and 26 meters respectively.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And our second public meeting is public meeting in respect of zone change application 09/22 for 24 Lassinger Boulevard, New Hamburg. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. So this application is proposing to reduce the current 15-meter rear yard setback to allow for the installation of a in-ground pool. So properties on Lassinger Boulevard backing onto the woodlot are subject to a 15-meter rear yard setback. This was established as a buffer when the subdivision was originally approved in the early 2000s. Council may recall that approving two identical applications in recent years to allow for development within this 15-meter rear yard setback, and so this application is seeking to do something identical. So over the last several years, there does remain only a few lots with mature trees within the rear yards of these properties. So this property in particular has no remaining trees in the rear yard, and therefore imposing a 15-meter rear yard serves no purpose at this point. So in circulating the application, staff did receive some concerns from one individual surrounding the protection of the marsh and the wetland area. So this subject property does not abut a wetland, and the Grand River Conservation Authority was circulated. They do not regulate the property, nor did they have any concerns with this application. Staff are recommending ultimately that this application be approved and that the setback be reduced to 7 meters, which is consistent with previous requests and was supported by the region of Waterloo, who oversees the woodland conservation bylaw.
Thank you. Council have any questions of technical nature for Mr. Miller or Mr. Martin? Perfect. Everything's technically correct. Good. There are no registered delegations for this matter. Would the clerk please indicate if any person present who wishes to address council on this matter?
And there is no one.
Okay. And make sure that the clerk has taken a second peek.
There is no one.
Okay, thank you. Can you have the clerk read the recommendation, please?
Recommendation is that council approve zone change application 09/22 by Lincoln Simmons to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 15 meters to approximately 7 meters to allow for the installation of an in-ground pool.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Gordick, second by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we have some presentations this evening. Ask Mr. Romney to make the first presentation, which is from the Sustainability Work Group. Mr. Romney.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. On behalf of the Sustainability Working Group, I'm pleased to bring forth our annual report to Council. Included in the report includes a brief listing of some of the initiatives that the committee had supported throughout the year. Also included in the report is an update to the township's corporate-wide emissions from 2021. For the second year in a row, we have seen a decline in overall consumption and continue to exceed our greenhouse gas reduction target of 25% by the year 2027 by an additional 7.9%. Operating factors still remain in place due to facility closures and reduced fleet usage we observed under COVID-19 restrictions that were in place throughout 2021. Staff will continue to monitor and perhaps have a stronger understanding of where our emissions will be at under a more normalized scenario with the 2022 data. Newly added to the report includes data on the township's recently installed charging stations. In the graphic provided in the report, you'll see there's a steady usage throughout the summer months. Staff will continue to monitor and report usage similar to the township's GHG corporate emissions. Lastly, I'd like to extend my thanks to all the committee members whom are listed on the report for their continued participation over the year. Without their dedication, a number of the committee's accomplishments wouldn't have been possible. So following Council's receipt of this report, we'd like to introduce Tova Davidson, Executive Director of Sustainable Water Region, for a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we have a recommendation on the Sustainability Working Group.
The recommendation is that report COR 2022-030 from the Sustainability Working Group be received for information purposes.
Moved by Councillor Gordick, seconded by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Now I welcome Tova Davidson from Sustainability Waterloo Region to present her annual report. Welcome, Tova.
Thank you so much, Mayor Armstrong. It's a pleasure to be here. Shall I share my screen or what's easiest? It says I cannot share my screen.
You cannot, so staff will have to do that. And they are doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, Mayor Armstrong, and all the councillors and staff. I always love these, as you know. Just here this year to give you an update on what's been happening with Sustainable Waterloo Region and some of the great work that's being done. It is actually my honor to get to sit on the Sustainability Committee for the Township of Wilmot. And I have to say, you've got an incredible team around this who are doing really good things with really great commitment to sustainability. Next slide, please. It's been an interesting year in 2022 for our organization. We've had a lot of innovation, growth, evolution. If the pandemic showed SWR anything, it's that we really do have the opportunity to adjust and grow and change and do more, and that this community has appetite for more. So my focus today is going to be on the more, not on the standard things that we have been doing year over year, because you all know it so well. I thought I would bring some of the new and fun things. Next slide, please. The first thing is that we have a new logo and a new brand. So if you see this out in the world, you'll know this is still us, still the same. We just wanted to refresh it. And we love this play on sustain able. We are able to sustain ourselves here in Waterloo Region, and that focus on our ability to achieve it. Really proud of this. And I just wanted to note that this entire rebrand was done through volunteer time and pro bono work by one of our partners, Studio Locale, who I'll talk about in a minute. So a big thank you to them. We as an organization couldn't do what we do at all without our incredible team of volunteers. Next slide, please. We have some statistics on our membership. We actually have commitments of 77,000 tons of carbon equivalent being committed by the organizations in 2021 that work with us. They've seen this as an equivalent of 21,000, more than 21,000 cars off the road. That's a way for people to get their head around it. That's a lot of commitment. And the township is one of those organizations that has that commitment. And you are one of the leaders, as I've said before, within the municipalities of having a 24% absolute reduction target, and some incredible work being done there. We also found through the pandemic that we didn't have a waning of members being active. They actually saw this as an opportunity to rethink and do differently. So we were really happy to see that as well. Next slide, please. We had a lot of new membership in 2021. TravelWise had a couple of new organizations, but the Impact Network is the new name that we have given to the Regional Sustainability Initiative. The Impact Network had significant growth, including Fennings Organic, Jen being here tonight, and a whole bunch of other organizations across the region. And what we're seeing is that organizations now are starting to really understand the role that they play in not only reducing our footprint as a community, but the role that sustainability can play in their organization to make them stronger, more resilient, less risk exposed, et cetera. So it's been a really great momentum building within our network. Next slide, please. We also have expanded our borders. So as you're talking to your friends and counterparts to the west of you, we have now decided that we will support organizations through our Impact Network program in Oxford, Perth, and Wellington counties. And we're doing this because we've had so many organizations come to us asking for our help. There is nothing like SWR in their communities, and these organizations are looking for support to help them reduce their impact, know where their impact is, all of those kinds of things. So we have opened our doors to say, if you need help, we are here to help you. It also allows us to help organizations that have multiple locations that are outside of the Waterloo region. Examples would be people like Toyota Boshoku, who have a Woodstock location and an Elmira location. We actually did this in partnership with other locations, other organizations, Sustainability Leadership in Hamilton, as well as Sustainable London, and they've expanded their borders too, so that we haven't left any gaps. So we know all organizations in Southwestern Ontario will be supported up until the edge of London. Next slide, please. Many of you heard already about the Clean Economy Ecosystem Map, and this came about with a conversation and an annual general meeting with Waterloo EDC when I put up my hand and said, I don't know why we don't have one of these for the clean economy, because it's a massive industry and growing like crazy. And Waterloo Region is the leader in sustainability innovation in Canada. And so we took on the lead role in creating this clean economy ecosystem map with our partners at the region of Waterloo, Waterloo Region Community Energy, and of course, Waterloo EDC. And this is a good demonstration of our strength in this region in the clean economy development. Waterloo EDC says these maps they consider to be a strong sector if there's 100 people who apply, and this map had over 130 people reach out to say they believe they should be part of the map. So it shows some real strength in our community. Next slide, please. We also have started a microforest project. We have planted 2 microforests. This is about the size of a standard building lot, and it is renaturalization. The first 2 were done in schoolyards that were brought to our attention through Greenway Chaplain as communities that were less privileged and underserved, and we have planted almost 200 trees. Next slide. Microforests are planted on undevelopable land that we're not going to use for something else, but that we're taking the time and energy to mow. And so we're changing them into naturalized areas. And this does things like carbon sequestration, climate adaptation to slow down wind and water, reducing heat island effects, increasing our tree canopy, all the things that a municipality like are important. And it's really wonderful to see the integration in these schools with their curriculum. So they're having their kids do projects. They have classes being stewards of the forests. We're really excited to be able to share that we've actually actually had been able to gather funding for the microforest program, and we're planting 6 more this fall, and we're in work to plant, we're hoping 10 next year. So they're meant to be on community land, and that can be corporations, it can be municipalities, it can be schools, it could be in a clover leaf in the center of a cul-de-sac, it can be just about anywhere. All we're looking to do is to be allowed to plant these trees. And we did this in partnership with an awful lot of organizations, and I'll talk about that in a second. Next slide, please. The other really big news from 2021 was Transform WR, which is the strategy of the Climate Action Collaborative. SWR and Reap Green Solutions co-lead Climate Action WR and work to implement Transform WR, of which Wilmot Township is a really important partner. And I could say this over and over again in so many different places, but a big shout out to Ashton specifically, because he sits on the committee to try to bring in the perspectives of the townships into this plan and our execution of the plan. And he's an unbelievable advocate and champion for this work. You've seen this chart before. Next slide, please. We know that as we implement Transform WR, we need to look at 4 things to build an equitable, prosperous, resilient, and low carbon community. We need to transform the ways we move, the ways we build and operate our spaces, the ways we produce, consume, and waste goods, including our food systems, and the ways that we relate. And that ways we relate bakes in all of the elements of diversity and equity and all of those pieces that we need. We know you can't just build a sustainable community for the environment and not make it a sustainable community for the people as well. So we're working on the implementation and governance structure on this in partnership with the municipalities and in bringing it to the wider community as well. Next slide, please. Looking forward, some of the stuff we're working on. So let's go forward. Next slide. We've had a ton of new members in 2022 already. This is already out of date, both in the TravelWise program as well as in the Impact Network. So we're seeing really strong growth there. And some of them, like YNCU, have their headquarters in Waterloo Region, but we support every branch that they have across the country. So we're seeing really strong uptake there. Next slide. We're working on 3 programs. This will click through as I talk about them. If you can click them, they create nice little check marks. First, we're working on a green building network. And that green building network is a way for us to support the development industry. It's not about the buildings, it's about the people who create the buildings. So developers, architects, engineers, general contractors, sub-trades, to make sure that they understand what is a sustainable building, how do you build it, what's the business case for them to do that, how can they differentiate, how is it better for their customers and clients. We're also working on an ambassador program. The ambassador program is all about helping individuals bring sustainability to their workplace if their workplace isn't already well engaged in a program in something like Impact Network. And finally, we're working on a community sustainability lab in partnership with our co-located partners in the Evolve Green, which is the University of Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier University, and the Accelerator Center, to actually allow the community to bring barriers to sustainability forward and then do a ideation process with experts in that specific issue to be able to find the made in Waterloo region solution that will help to address it. Next slide. Just to talk about who our award winners were this year, the champion of the year was Bruce Taylor at Enviro Stewards. If you don't know Enviro Stewards, I would encourage you to go look at the work that they do. They've got an incredible smart, affordable blue roof program. They are constantly talking about all the important ways that we can make a better world through sustainability. I already alluded to Geological. They were the partner of the year and they helped us with our rebrand, but for years have been doing our year-end reports, and I'll drop off a pile for the team there for you to see the incredible work that they do, but they've been doing it with us for about 5 years. The rookie of the year was Conrad Grebel University College, and they really took off, led by a student. And their commitment to sustainability has been incredible in their first year working with us. Sustainable commuting was given to the City of Kitchener for the downtown cycling grid. The best partnership was given to the sector map partners that I talked about a little bit earlier. And finally, the sustainability breakthrough went to the microforest partners. And that is, you know, GRCA, the region, the municipality, and Cambridge in this case. The planting partners, which were Energy Plus, now Grandbridge Energy, and EY. So many partners that made this a reality. So really big thank you to all those winners. So thank you so much for the time today. for allowing me to present. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. And just to thank you for being such a great partner. The Township of Wilmot is the leader in sustainability in the townships in this community, I would say, because you've always been pushing and striving and working to do more. And that starts right from council, your CAO, your senior leadership, right to the people who are on the ground doing it. So thank you so much for the commitment and the leadership.
Thank you, Tova. Any comments or questions for Tova? Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Armstrong. A question either to Tova or perhaps the Director of Public Works and Engineering. One thing I noticed in the report was the fuel is one of the biggest CO2 emission contributors. So we at the township, and I mean the sustainability committee is doing an amazing job, but one of the things we're really handcuffed is the trying to obtain electric vehicles. So just because of the scarcity of them, I guess, but is there any advantage to converting vehicles to propane or natural gas? And I'm not sure who would like to answer that.
Well, I think,
Go ahead.
Ms.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, I'd probably put that one to Tova to give a response to, and not the Director of Public Works and Engineering, but if you're okay with that, Tova.
You bet. No problem, Patrick. So yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting question. And really what it comes down to is that fossil fuels have 10 times the emissions of electricity in Ontario. So it doesn't matter whether it's gasoline, natural gas, propane, it's 10 times the CO2 equivalent. And so going to propane it might be slightly less fuel, but it doesn't make a dramatic difference in your carbon footprint, unfortunately. I have been hearing, though, that the ramp up of electric vehicles and the market availability they're expecting will start to transition early next year, so that it won't be a 2-year wait time to get an electric vehicle. And there's a lot of work happening in things like heavier duty vehicles. So buses and maintenance vehicles and pickup trucks and all of that sort of thing didn't used to be an option, and they now certainly are.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Just a quick comment to Councillor Fisher's question, and just an update for council. Today, September 12th, the township did place its first 2 orders, one for a hybrid vehicle for municipal law enforcement and one for a fully electric vehicle for the corporate services vehicle. So we are starting to make the movement into electric vehicles when available, but just thought I'd share that good news.
Councillor Gordick.
Thank you, through the mayor. Both Ashton and Tova mentioned the decrease, or sorry, our increase in our greenhouse gas numbers had improved. And part of that, I guess, was COVID, as I think in Ashton's report related to that. With some people who kind of doing the hybrid thing, has there been any feedback from the companies that you're working with to say that that's a thing that they're working towards because of that change and the increase of our greenhouse meeting our targets?
Sorry,
ahead,
my
Tova.
internet cut up. Could you repeat that? I was gone for a second and now I'm back.
So basically, because Ashton and both yourself, our numbers improved during the last year, but that had to do with COVID more than anything else. But I'm just wondering, because of the new partners that have come on board and some of the hybrid working schemes that some companies have done, has that sort of helped for somebody to support companies doing the hybrid, and so that you can sort of use that as a tool to help improve our numbers even more so?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and thanks for it. I think we had a lot of question marks around what was going to happen in terms of carbon footprint and work from home, all that sort of thing. With our membership, we certainly are seeing in some industries, there is a lean towards a hybrid work model. And it would reduce emissions from things like employee commuting, because there aren't people driving back and forth. And I think it may affect things like how the building space is taken and how, is it maintained, et cetera, the heating, the lighting. Even before the pandemic, Quarry Communications did a program where they shut down entirely on Wednesday. So they turned the temperature down. People weren't even allowed to come to the office. You had to work from home to try to reduce their carbon footprint. And it did have some impact. Overall, however, unfortunately, the pandemic increased our carbon footprint because everybody ordered everything online and there were delivery drivers driving everywhere. And so nationally and internationally, COVID increased our carbon footprint, which was unfortunate.
Okay, thank you. See no further questions? Thank you again, Tova, for your presentation.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. Have a
You
great
bet.
night.
Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is the consent agenda. So if members of the council have any questions and want to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless the items are requested to be moved to the regular agenda. Go ahead, Councillor Hallman.
Thanks for the mayor. I would like 11.1 removed from the agenda, please.
So be it. That's the only one. Good. So I'll ask clerk to read the recommendation.
Yes, the recommendation is that consent items 11.2 through to 11.4 be approved.
Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Gordick, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. So we shall deal with 11.1 at this point.
Okay, so we'll move 11.1 into the report section and treat it as 12.1. I can speak to the report through the mayor. So the procedure bylaw prescribes that council sets the schedule of meetings for the following calendar year annually. It also prescribes that the meetings be held on 2 Mondays of every month, except for July, August, and December. And as well, it prescribes that the clerk take into account any major events, statutory holidays, municipal conferences, and such things as school spring breaks. The clerk reviewed the calendar of 2023 with the procedure bylaw in mind and came up with the schedule which you see before you. And I can take any questions or comments about it.
Councillor Hallman, I understand you have a list.
Sorry, I was having a hard time. My mouse was not cooperating with me there. Sorry, through the mayor. So this began with me reaching out to the international interfaith community and had asked them to review these dates just because I had had feedback regarding our municipal election, which is, yes, I know a date not set by us, but we received lots of feedback that it interfered with the high holy day of another in the faith community of October 24th. So it led me to thinking and taking responsibility for, reflecting on more equity, diversity, and inclusion in our community. And feedback was given. There was feedback that was given that March 6th is Purim, and it's a high holiday in the Jewish community. June 26th is Haji in the Muslim community. September 25th is Yom Kippur, and December 11th is Hanukkah. with Hanukkah lasting several days. I think the easiest one to make a amendment would be to December 4th or 18th. So I'm just wondering if maybe we can deal with that one first, because my suggestion for the others would be to consider moving them to the Tuesday. So that would be March 7th, June 27th, and September 26th. Further to that, I'm looking for guidance from the clerk as to the best way to do a staff recommendation going forward. If it's an amendment to that report, to just ask that the clerks from now on also consult the International Interfaith Calendar when setting dates and trying to avoid high holy days for all religious communities.
Yes, points very, very well taken. What I would like to do, what I would recommend is that you refer the report back, and that we report back, that I can do the due diligence and take into account all the major religious holidays and additional criterion, number one. And number two, I would promise to, when we rewrite the new procedure bylaw, which we are working on, that we build that into the new procedure bylaw. I think it's a very important thing to do, yes. So I could recommend a referral back with the will of council, that the report come back to council with a revised schedule, which also considers major religious holidays.
Through the mayor, I would greatly appreciate that and move that suggestion.
Okay, you want to have that as a recommendation?
Okay, I'll move it as a, would you like me to reread the recommendation?
Okay, so that is moved by Councillor Holman. That'll be seconded by Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So next item that we're looking at is correspondence. Township of Wilmot has received the 2021 financial information return FERS award. As noted in the letter from the Minister Clark, Wilmot is being recognized for our efforts for supplying timely, reliable, and accurate information to the province. On behalf of council, I'd like to personally thank Mr. Kelly and the entire team in corporate services for their continued hard work and professionalism. Before opening for comments from council, I would invite Mr. Kelly to say a few words. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. Appreciate it, and I'll be brief. Simply wanted to recognize that the award is only possible through a strong team that's committed to hard work and professionalism throughout the year. And we have that within the Wilmot Township Corporate Services team. Also benefit from the high quality staff across the entire organization and multiple service areas who supply timely and reliable information for the reporting. And finally, council for your support of our team and acceptance of financial reporting in a timely and efficient manner. In short, the award reflects the collaborative work environment that is here within Wilmot Township, which makes Wilmot a fantastic place for all of us to work every day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, congratulations for that recognition from the province. I think we try to, at least I do try to express that recognition whenever I can. Usually I try to do it behind your back so that the rest of staff can really feel the benefits of my appreciation. Believe me, I know who their leader is. Thank you again. Okay. So that's it for correspondence. Next item is the bylaws. Ask the clerk to read the recommendation on bylaws, please.
Okay, the recommendation is that bylaw numbers 2022-39, 2022-40, 2022-41, 2022-42, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council this date. Namely 14.1 bylaw 2022-39 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 83-38 rezone change Lashinger Boulevard. 14.2 bylaw 2022-040 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 83-38 rezone change Snyder's Road East. 14.3 bylaw 2022-041 being a bylaw to remove holding provision H on Neville Street. And 14.4 bylaw 2022-042 being a bylaw to remove holding provision H Brubaker Street.
Thank you. And a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fenning, Councillor Hallman. Correction, Councillor Gordick. All in favor? Thank you. There are no notices of motion. Announcements. We start off with the fall fair. The New Hamburg Fall Fair started with a small group of people coming together to celebrate all things agricultural over 160 years ago. The entire community shares in the joy and excitement of organizers and volunteers as the Fall Fair makes its return this weekend at Norham Hill Park in New Hamburg. This year's theme is aptly named Back to Our Roots. And the fair is sure to provide fun for the entire family with some new features and a collection of community favorites from previous years. A huge thanks to all the sponsors and volunteers who make this weekend a success in supporting our rural agricultural community. Also, Wilmot Citizen of the Year. This Friday evening at the Fall Fair, Township staff will be presenting the Citizen of the Year Awards. Each year, the Township recognizes community members who make outstanding contributions to Wilmot and its residents. The awards acknowledge residents who build community and exemplify what can be achieved with passion and determination. We received a large number of nominations for each category, and after a public voting period, we look forward to announcing the winners live from the Fall Fair. Be sure to join us for the announcement and follow us on social media for the results. Fall Fair booth. This year, Township staff will be hosting a booth at the indoor venue of the Fall Fair. Be sure to visit our booth to learn more information about this year's municipal election process, where there are more days and more ways to vote. That's the motto that we're following. The booth will also have information regarding career opportunities with Township, details about recreation programs for the whole family, and more. Communication strategy. Staff are currently working on a corporate communication and engagement strategy because we want to improve how we share information and hear from members of our community. We know we can do better, and so we have launched a public online survey to help inform this strategy. Our goals are to help ensure the community is better informed about Township programs, services, and decisions, and that the community has a meaningful voice in local decision-making. For more information, visit our website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Innova announcement. Finally, the merger of Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro Inc. and Waterloo North Hydro Inc. is now complete, and they are now unified under the brand Innova Power Corp. Executive and board members of Innova Power Corp joined mayors and local officials last Thursday to officially unveil the new name and brand for the merging entity. Innova Power Corp began operations today and is now the 7th largest electricity distributor in Ontario. I want to thank staff for the significant work that occurred over the past 2 years to reach this point. The teamwork and corroboration across the 5-member municipalities showcase what makes our communities so successful. Councillor Gordick.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I just have a couple of Terry Fox announcements. Sorry, it's that time of year. So a couple of weeks ago, I just want to acknowledge that Terry Fox's older brother, Fred Fox, visited the community, and I was able to spend some time with him as we took him around to meet some of the people who have contributed to the Wilmot Terry Fox Run, including township staff and council, local businesses, and residents. Thank you to everyone who made Fred feel so welcome. He sent us a message the next day saying it was nice to meet so many caring people. This coming Saturday, September 17th from 11 a.m., there's a fundraising barbecue outside Stobie's in New Hamburg, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Terry Fox Foundation for Cancer Research. Thank you to Bill and Jill Fleming for donating all the food and refreshments, and to Sheila Walker at Home Hardware for the free loan of a grill. Then on Sunday, September 18th, it's back. The Wilmot Terry Fox Run is returning as an in-person event for the first time since 2019. We will be based at the New Hamburg Community Center once again, as the Wilmot Agricultural Society has offered us free space in the arena during the New Hamburg Fall Fair for our registration and opening ceremonies. You can sign up and collect pledges at wilmotterryfox.ca and then join us from 12:30 on Sunday. I also want to give a special shout out to Stephanie Suze, the president of the Ag Society, who has bent over backwards to make sure we have everything we need. At the same time, she's been dealing with the many challenges of running the fall fair. Thank you, Stephanie, for your kindness and leadership. And thank you, everyone, for helping to support our Wilmot Terry Fox in the community.
Thank you, Cheryl. And again, I'll say it again, that certainly appreciate the hard work that yourself and Nigel have put in since you've taken over, and it has become very successful. Okay, no further announcements, and there's no business arising from, as we had no closed session. So we have a confirmatory bylaw. Read the recommendation, please, Mr. Clerk.
The recommendation is that bylaw number 2022-43 be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council on this date.
Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Gordick, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Now an adjournment.
And the recommendation is that we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor.
Moved by Councillor Gerber, seconded by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Safe drive home.